Alright guys, Luke here from 13 Motorsports. We're doing a little tire talk video because now, super excited, we finally got a new tire to add to our list. I must point out, I haven't tested this whatsoever, so we're just going to be taking some observations and comparisons between our test subjects. So first on the list, my current favorite, the Nangkang CRS, Yokohama A052, Falken RT660, and new up to the chopping block is the Bridgestone RE71RS. So this tire is what I'm really interested in talking about. Again, I have not driven on it yet, haven't tested it, nothing. It's just brand new. They just came in, I guess, to the warehouse. I saw them available. I grabbed one just so we could do some comparative tests, weight, dimension, tread pattern, etc. I've already covered the CRS and the RT660 in a previous video, so you can check that one out if you want to get some more detailed information. But I'm going to jump ahead and talk about the hot topic, as well as I also finally got some A052s and 255. So I think what we'll... Sorry about the noise in the background. What we'll look at first is the Potenza RE71RS. So this is the replacement for the dated RE71, and it now looks completely different. I'd imagine that it's going to be better, like just going off of the reviews and stuff that I've heard, because it has been out for probably about a year or so already. It's just, you know, in Canada we get everything late. So again, just initial impressions. The tread pattern has been very revised here, so let's take a closer look at the tread pattern. Let me get my little pointer. 1 second. So what you'll notice, the tread pattern is obviously quite a bit different, and this is unlike anything I've ever seen. These tires are inside outside, so I think it's important to note what is what. So this is the outside here, okay? So what you can immediately notice, pull the camera down here, is that the outside, the tread, does not continue all the way outside, whereas it does on the inside. So looking at this a little bit more closely, you can see some interesting marks on the side here, but these are not the rollover indicator. That's the rollover indicator there. So I'm not exactly sure the function of this, but it looks like that would be a good benchmark for how far your car is also rolling over, right? So you can see that kind of distinctive seam line right there, which kind of matches up with the rollover indicator there. So that would definitely be the point in which you need some more camber if you're getting up onto that avenue there. Tread is quite interesting. It's got some very deep and large grooves here. I'm sure there's some technical information on Bridgestone as to the design, and maybe somebody that's got more of a engineering background could tell me exactly what this is for. I'm not that smart. I just send it, which I haven't done on these yet. Really big groove towards the inside, medium-sized groove in the middle, and a very small groove here towards the outer edge. You can see a nice beefy section here, which is where you're going to do most of your grip driving when the car is leaned over. Okay, this is quite interesting. On the inside, get the flash on here for you. Inside, very directional looking grooves here. Nothing looks super crazy. Did notice the sidewall is very thick, and also it has a very different sealing surface than, let's say, the A052, right? The A052 has a really different design here, and actually looks like it's quite a bit wider here versus the RE71 really dips down where it's going to sit on the wheel versus here's quite a bit taller. This is a very distinctive difference, right? This looks a lot like the RT660 style, which is more of a radius. Let's look at the CRS just to compare. Ooh, okay. So, all right, well, there's something quite obvious here. The design of the CRS, quite similar to the A052, and the RE71, quite similar to the RT. And you can see the inside of the RT, completely smooth from here to here, and some little cross hatching here, directional grooves there. RTs are rotational, and all these other tires are inside outside. Right? Interesting. And then the A052 just got, or no, sorry, CRS, grooves all over. A052, less pronounced, but grooves all on the inside. Okay. So what else do we notice with this tire? I would say, like, putting my weight on this tire, it is very, very stiff. I would assume this is going to give you very good response and feedback from the tire because the sidewall is very stiff comparatively to something like the A052, which you could grab this thing and it feels a lot softer on the sidewall. We're gonna do a little test here. Get the camera set up on the tripod and we're gonna look at which one is actually wider. Okay, so I've come up with a good way to test the actual width without doing it comparatively. So what we're gonna do is we're gonna measure from my fab table to the flat stock here, and we're gonna get a reading. Okay, so 269 millimeters. This is the RE71. Alright, check the other side. Yep, the same. This is the RE71, 269 millimeters wide. Okay, next, the Nangkang CRS. Keep in mind, these are all this year's tires as well, 2022s. Ooh, very interesting results here. So 276.5, 276. Yep, 276 CRS. A052, expecting this to be pretty wide. Okay, so nope, 268.5. Yep, 268.5. Last but not least, the RT660, which may measure a little wide because of this lip that they got there, but let's see. Ooh, 276. Yep. So the same as the CRS. What is happening here? Why is it bigger on this side? Oh no, well, it's a little bit bigger. 278 on this side. 276 on this side. Okay, let's split the difference. 277. And that's the RT660. Okay, so what does this actually mean? Nothing really, because there's differences in the way the tire is actually designed. You know, look at, see this little lip right here causes it to sit a little higher, whereas the A052 is quite a bit more squared off. So just kind of like a relative comparison, take it with a grain of salt. Okay, next thing, I think this is actual tangible data here. So It's a good thing to look at. Let me just make sure this is, oh, no, I'm too fat. Okay. Well, it's zeroed. So let's measure up these tires. A052, usually the lightest. And you've got 23.2 pounds for the A052. Okay, the next, the RT660. 27.6 pounds. And the CRS. 26.4. Last but not least, expecting this one to be heavy too, RE71, 25.8. Okay, not that heavy. Okay, so what do these numbers actually mean? So let's start with the lightest tire by a long shot. The A052 is definitely the lightest tire at 23.2 pounds. What does this actually mean? It means less unsprung weight, potentially faster acceleration, potentially improved braking. Does it actually translate to that? I don't know. That's up to you to decide. I'm just giving you the numbers. The second lightest tire is the RE71. I'd like to point out that I think there's a notable difference in the stiffness between the A052 and the RE71. RE71 feels a lot stiffer. The next lightest would be the CRS, and finally the RT660. Haven't driven on the RT660 and CRS and the A052. I would say that the A052 definitely has a softer sidewall. Feels like it loads a little bit more, you know, in the corner, kind of loads up a little bit more. And the RT660 is a very stiff tire, which translates, in my opinion, to better steering feel and a little bit more predictable handling. But I still prefer the CRS in terms of grip and behavior at the limit. Width-wise, now this is a super subjective test, right? Because again, pointing out that like these are not mounted on a wheel, which is also an important test. And also there is like design differences between the tires that may or may not like kind of negate any of the size difference here. So the widest of the bunch is the RT660. Again, I did point out that the design of the tire with that little lip around the edge might be kind of skewing the data a little bit. Second would be the CRS, which physically looks rather large. The RE71 is about 0.5 mil bigger than the A052, or wider, sorry. But RT660 and the CRS are both in the 276, 277 mil range, which is almost 10 millimeters wider than the other two tires in the comparison. So, I don't know. Take that for what it is. I'd also like to look comparatively at the actual tread patterns of these tires, right? So let's just grab this one here, stack them up, and physically look at them. So RE71, sticker out of the way, RE71, CRS, RT, A052. Now, I've driven this tire in the rain, and I've driven this tire in the rain. I still think this tire, the CRS, is better in the rain than that one, despite what the geometry would make you think. You would think that this tire is going to dissipate more water because of the channels and stuff like that, but I don't think so. I found it was pretty slippery in the rain. That could also be temperature related. And I haven't driven the A052 or obviously the RE71 in the rain. Bridgestones are typically pretty good in the rain, so that's going to be decided at a later date. But notably, the CRS does have what appears to be more actual rubber and less grooves. And you know, another thing to note is these are all asymmetric except for the RT660, right? We're going to do some measurements of the actual tread and see what results we get from that. Okay, so let's measure the tread depth on the RE71. I'm going to take 3 measurements. Don't mind the noise. So I'm going to take the outside tread here. Well, shit, this is a little bit tricky to decide where to take this, but let's start with the middle. In the middle, 5.57 mil. You know, towards the very outer tread block here, if you can see where I'm measuring, 4.24. And on the other side, I won't go all the way to the edge, but 4.5. So that's the actual tread depth, and to the wear bar, about 3.88 mil. That's all zeroed, right? So that's the RE71. Next, CRS. Keep in mind that the amount of rubber on the tire will affect the weight, as well as how much metal cordage is actually in the tire. Now, I'm noticing immediately that the distance between the tread and the wear bar on the inside is quite low. So at the outer edge here, well, the inner edge, 4.4. In the middle, 4.8. And the very outer edge here, which takes the most load, 3.55. Right, into the wear bar in the middle. A little bit tricky to measure this one. 3.3. There's another wear bar here, just for argument's sake, 2.46. Right? If you got your alignments set up properly, you should not be wearing too much here. You will be wearing quite a bit here. Something I'd also like to point out is that this area, the outer area of the CRS, it already starts off with very minimal tread depth here. You know, I've been to Time Attack and everybody comments, oh, your tires look worn out, but no, these things actually wear a lot here, and they start off low, so after a track day or two, they could look pretty bad, and I can show you what I mean, because my car's right here, right? So, you know, these have been through some track days already, and it looks like there's nothing here, and they're only now starting to kind of get the waviness that indicates that there's just too much wear on the sides here when they start kind of getting all out around. You can see the inside looks good, and this is on, you know, the GR86 that has, I think, like 4.5 degrees of negative camber on the front, and then the rears look about the same. Again, if you look at the way these tires wear, a lot more on the outer edge. The inner still looks pretty good at the wear bar there, but not quite here in the middle. And they're still grippy. They're still super grippy. I did a PB at the end of the year on this exact set of tires, so take that with a grain of salt. This is a 275 on here too, just FYI. Okay, back to measuring. I'll get this one out of here. Next up, the RT660. This tire is actually clean, so it looks a lot newer. Okay, so the outer edge here, start there, 4.59 mil. 5.89 mil in the middle, 4.5 there, and at the outer edge, 4.59. So I'd say this thing has quite a bit of tread, and that might also be why it's so damn heavy. I did get a whole season. I could have got a whole season of Time Attack and lapping out of a set of these, and I actually sold them like scrubbed out afterward, and I'm sure somebody was really happy because they're getting a super good deal on 8 of those tires. And then the A052, arguably the grip king. So here, 3.9 in the middle, 4.84, and at the end here, at the outer edge, is this the outer edge? Yeah, this is the outer edge here. Not much like the CRS, 3.3. Not as much tread as the RT660. Something else I'd like to very specifically note about this A052 is this is a very square tire. So let's have a look at this easier. So the distance, like the other tires kind of curve in here and look a little bulbous, but this tire actually looks like it can mount on a wider wheel because it's very squared off at the edge. Means there's rubber all the way up, and it kind of squares off with the sidewall. Whereas some of these other tires, you know, like the RT, it's more of a rounder edge here, and so does the Bridgestone. But both the CRS and the A052 are more squared off at the edge, which may be why the RT seems to get a little bit squirrely on the limit, where, you know, when you're riding the outside edge of the CRS or the A052, it still has a very predictable handling characteristic. So comment below, post up if you have any specific questions about these tires. I'll try my best to help. In closing, what does all this mean? Nothing really. You decide. Giving you the data, showing you the videos. You look at the tires. You decide. My personal opinion. I haven't driven the RE71, as I said. The CRS is a pretty good tire. The A052 is also very grippy. The RT660 potentially is fast, but I prefer the characteristic of the CRS at the limit. So buy the tires, try them out. You figure it out. Thanks for watching.